This guy can take your blood and your DNA and tell you when you're going to die. And he's right within a month.
Whoa. You're killing me right now.
How crazy is that?
That's crazy.
I connect with this guy. And they come in and they do my blood work. And they scrape the insides of your cheeks to do your DNA. And the following Wednesday is when my results are supposed to be back. So he calls me. All I'm talking about is finding out this date. And he says, I'm going to come out personally and walk you through your blood work. And I'm like, motherfucker.
I don't need a cliffhanger for this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So he ends up coming out. He sits down for 3.5 hours and goes through my blood work. And I'm all fucked up. Everything else that could possibly be bad is bad. He gave me 10.4 years to live.
Stop.
What's up guys, Derek, moreplacemoredates.com. Today we are talking about Dana White getting shredded out of his goddamn tree, bro. He is 53 years old and looking better than most people in their 20s. Maybe there's some wear and tear on the skin and whatnot, but overall you see this six-pack separation here. He's got some mass on his frame still. He's looking fucking athletic and good. And this is a massive improvement from what we've seen him at his worst. If you haven't seen it, I actually did a natty or not on him last year. Got cranked out of his goddamn mind. But again, presumably leaned down even more since then. This was him at his worst. Guinness fucking off the charts. If you don't know what a Guinness is, just think about it, bro. Gut hanging over your penis. That's what it is. He's got like quad chins, bro. Like the guy was very unhealthy, objectively so. You can just tell like this guy's blood work's probably a fucking mess. The amount of atherosclerosis being built up, the amount of pre-diabetes, like this guy, or full-blown diabetes at this point. Like this is representative of unhealthy, shitty diet practices and exercise regimen or lack thereof, sleep hygiene practices, who knows. So interestingly enough, you know, as you would expect, a lot of these like top entrepreneurs, they work a fuck ton and then they end up succumbing to a lifestyle that is putting their health on the back burner. And for him, he had had enough after he got a reality check, because oftentimes it is what you need to really scare yourself into action. As he was actually told he has about 10 years to live. Like literally he's going to die within 10 years. And for somebody who is has a massive legacy and you know, has children and whatnot, like that is fucking sketchy to hear at 50, you know, 50 whatever years old he was at the time. So this is the podcast where he first brings it up, the Action Junkies podcast. They talk about how lean he's looking, and then he goes into the fucking wild news that he got about his predictable mortality.
You walked in here, first thing I know, and I've been noticing it the last few weeks at Contender Series. You're looking lean, man. What is going on here?
Thanks. So there's this, you know Carrie Kasem, right?
Yep.
Remember Casey Kasem, top
Sure,
40?
of course.
So she's been a good friend of mine for like 25 years. She hit me up, I don't know, before the summer and was like, you know, you're one of my best friends. You've been such a good friend to me, blah, blah, blah. There's nothing I could ever do for you, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to introduce you to this guy named Gary Brecka. He 10X Health Systems is the name of his company. Oh. And he's a human biologist, and he's a mortality expert. Mm-hmm. So this guy can take your blood and your DNA and tell you when you're going to die. And he's right within a month.
Whoa. You're killing me right now.
How crazy is that?
That's crazy.
So I was fucking
I would be scared to do that.
Obsessed. I had to know.
Yeah, so some of these tests are becoming more popular now and they're becoming more accurate over the years. But the main one that's of most popularity is these like biological versus chronological age calculators, where they use methylation patterns and epigenetic changes in via your lifestyle choices and environment, diet, etc. And it sort of determines like what your chronological age is. Like you already know what that is, but your biological age, that is determined by this, you know, like test that can then be cross-referenced against your chronological age. And your biological age, you could be either older, younger, or the same as your chronological age, and determine if you're like a healthy individual who is actually like, you know, partaking in lifestyle habits that are conducive to not dying as quick or dying faster or whatever. So, you know, some individuals that have like horrible lifestyle patterns, like heavy smokers, whatever it is, they might have a chronological age of like 35, but have a biological age of like 42. And like typically this would be represented in how they look and, you know, their body composition and whatnot. And then there are some individuals who like totally change their lives and, you know, flip everything on its head and get way healthier, and they could be, you know, go from a biological age of 42 while they're 35 down to a biological age of, you know, 31 while they're chronologically still 35. So that's the kind of stuff that is typically determined through these tests. And then the kind of like, you know, sketchy thing is if you take that data and you extrapolate it out into mortality predictions, and you end up with things like there's a Grimm age as well as like a DNA age. There's like different clocks, like Horvath's clock is one, and there's like a few other ways they use like methylation and whatnot to determine like ballpark when you're gonna die. And you know, is it accurate within a month? I would be highly skeptical of. But I mean, these things are getting more dialed in over the years, and I wouldn't be surprised if at some point in the near future it becomes, you know, actually pretty damn accurate to within a year or two or within a couple months, whatever it is. Like, you can actually look at some of the studies on like how accurate these things are. Does the epigenetic clock Grimm age predict mortality independent of genetic influences? An 18-year follow-up study in older female twin pairs. This was a study done with, I think it was like 400 plus participants or something. You could see like the accuracy of using Horvath DNA, M age, DNA M, Grimm age, and you know, how accurate it really was. And then you take that information and like ultimately what can you do with it? Ideally, it is more so just like either a pat on the back to yourself if you are doing better, or it's a big wake-up call. And for Dana White, presumably this was a massive wake-up call.
Really?
Yeah. So
And so he actually gave you a timeline?
yeah. So he's down in Miami. You know Grant Cardone?
Not personally, but sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He started.
I saw
working
those
with
guys
this
in the
guy.
fight a few weeks
He
ago.
bought his company.
Okay.
Grant Cardone owns the company, and he's a partner with Gary Brecka. So
Yep.
I become fucking obsessed with finding out, you know, the month I'm going to die. So we're down there for my son's 21st birthday party in Miami, and I connect with this guy, and they come in and they do my blood work, and they scrape the insides of your cheeks to do your DNA, and I'm gonna find out. So it's like it's a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We're down there. The following Wednesday is when my results are supposed to be back. So he calls me. All I'm talking about is finding out this date, and he says, I'm gonna come out personally and walk you through your blood work. And I'm like, motherfucker. I wanted to know today when this was going to happen.
I don't need a...
So what can they do with these like spit in the tube, you know, DNA, genome assessments? You can find out, you know, common or relatively uncommon polymorphisms that make you more susceptible to certain disease states, or even make you more likely to live longer and things that are protective. But ultimately, it's data that you can then use to tweak your diet and lifestyle accordingly. And sometimes you'll find very insightful tidbits that may require you even to add certain supplements. Like if you have an MTHFR polymorphism, something I've talked about many times on the channel, requires an increase in supplementation of methyl donors for some individuals, like myself personally, as well as a lot of people who are from Italy and other certain parts of Europe. I'm half Italian, by the way. There's certain individuals that, like, geographically and just the way their ancestors have like evolved and whatnot, they end up with certain different, like, you know, genetic variations than the next guy from a different area of the planet, and they end up more susceptible to, or less susceptible to, fill in the blank thing. Like, there's differences across the board, of course, and this is where it becomes insightful though, and you can create more targeted recommendations for individuals. And then obviously blood work is a snapshot in time of your current state of health, and you can kind of use this data to sort of like, you know, corroborate the sort of findings and then determine an overall comprehensive, like, widespread approach that's going to be like practical, actionable tips to kind of like implement into your life and try and get that biological age down as fucking far as possible in a short time frame. Fortunately, can actually be done too, because some of this stuff, like with weight loss, you can see massive fluctuations in things like, you know, blood pressure I think it can go down by like 1 millimeter of mercury with each kilogram of weight loss. Like, that's so significant. If you're somebody with high blood pressure and you have a shit ton of weight to lose, like, you can imagine how impactful that can be if you lose, you know, 20, 30, 40 plus pounds like Dana White did, which you'll get into shortly. But so many things too, like from a pre-diabetic standpoint, and the downstream impact that's gonna have from an insulinogenic signaling aspect on cancer cell proliferation. Like, there are so many byproduct satellite things that can fuck you up from a cardiovascular disease risk thing. Standpoints, cancer cell proliferation, mental state, you know, quality of life, vitality, like everything is heavily impacted by your choices. Not just if your blood work looks bad, it doesn't necessarily just mean like, oh, you know, maybe I'll have a heart attack earlier in my life. Like, your quality of life up to that heart attack is also going to be much, much worse. You're going to feel old. You're going to function old. You're going to be a less happy individual likely. Your mood is going to suffer. Your every emotional state is going to be volatile. Like all of these things are so heavily impacted by the things you put in your fucking mouth and the things you do with your body at the end of the day.
Cliffhanger for this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So he ends up coming out. He sits down for 3.5 hours and goes through my blood work. And I'm all fucked up. So my triglycerides are like 764.
What should they be?
They should be down in the, like, between 80 and 150.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And everything else that could possibly be bad is bad. He gave me 10.4 years to live.
Stop.
Yeah.
This was this year?
This was 16 weeks ago. And he says,
damn. So that was actually like after this initial transformation. Like he was obviously huskier here for sure still, but you could tell he's doing something that is impactful and changed his body composition massively for the better, but he's still a pretty fucking husky dude and would probably benefit from, he was doing like wild eating videos, just showing like shitty food every week, and like, you know, his lifestyle was still not conducive to optimal health, but you can change things around like real quick, dude. Like 16 weeks, I am not surprised why things have dramatically changed for him in such a positive manner, which he'll get to shortly, I'm sure, because he looks way fucking better than he ever has.
if you don't change these things that you're going to do, this is your life expectancy right now. So he said, if you do what I tell you to do, first of all, the thing that freaked me out the most was he did my blood work. I didn't tell this guy jack shit about me, my medical history, what was going on with me personally. He told me everything that was wrong with me.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
To the like shit that I didn't even tell my wife.
Yeah, you can get quite a bit of insight just from analyzing blood work, like for assessing if fasting insulin, if it's through the roof, if you have a hemoglobin A1C that is pre-diabetic or even representative of type 2 diabetes, if you have a C-reactive protein, representative of sky-high inflammation levels, if you have a lipid profile that's like totally out of whack and is representative of like accelerated atherosclerosis or even plaque deposition whatsoever. Like there are so many things that are massive red flags that you can see if somebody has low T and if that downstream is impacting their glycemic control. Like all of this stuff is pretty easy to extrapolate out and kind of create a comprehensive picture of what somebody's lifestyle, diet habits, sleep hygiene is actually like at the time, just by assessing that snapshot in their blood work. So that is why I'm so passionate about Merrick Health. You know, I talk about it in most videos. The future of health optimization, that's not an understatement in my opinion. If you just go to the blood work in lab section, you can find pre-designed panels that I've audited myself, as well as multiple high-level doctors, medical providers, patient care coordinators, individuals I've deferred to for my own further education as well, above and beyond the actual like credentialed medical staff. This is stuff that is representative of turnkey, done for you panels that will be representative of like a comprehensive snapshot of your health status, which can then create data that you can take actionable like efforts to correct or optimize whatever it is, or even just assure you that you're going in the right direction. I cannot state the importance enough as frequently as I talk about it. I do not think it is possible to overstate the importance of getting a snapshot in time of your blood work, even if you are a young, healthy, highly, you know, functional individual who seems to have like perfect dick function. You get morning wood, you gain muscle fine. Like having a snapshot in time is so indicative of what's going on now that if something goes awry, like you will want that snapshot in time. You can then go look back and then see, okay, when things got fucked up, this is my blood work now, but that baseline I had, what went aberrant? Why? What is going on? Why am I where I'm at now? Why is this through the roof? Why is, you know, my fasting insulin this? And you can kind of like pinpoint what the differentiating factors were that got you from here to here. So even for healthy young individuals, I recommend at least getting one like reasonably comprehensive panel, which will then serve as your baseline foundational infrastructure for years to come.
Told me what was wrong with me, told me everything that was wrong with me from my blood work. So he says, if you do what I tell you to do for the next 10 weeks, I promise you I'll change your whole life. So I'm one of these people that when I set my mind to do something, I absolutely do it. So
All in.
I did everything he said to the letter. I lost 30 pounds. My legs were so fucked up 13 weeks ago, I couldn't tie my shoes. I couldn't bend over to tie my shoes because my legs were fucked up. I could barely walk some days. Sleep apnea, snoring. I had these doctors that I went to for 10 years asking them what's wrong with my legs. They couldn't fucking tell me. I was told them I was having problems with sleep apnea and snoring.
Yeah, so like you can imagine the sleep apnea risk of a guy like this, or even like I don't think people realize how common sleep apnea is, even if it's at, there's a spectrum for sure where it's not as problematic, and when you lose a lot of weight, it might become so insignificant that it's essentially been mitigated entirely, but oftentimes it's a spectrum of risk in terms of how bad it really is. Like at the most severe, you might have guys who are in their off season as a bodybuilder, even if they're still lean, they might have brutal sleep apnea. Individuals who are like actually obese, very likely to have sleep apnea. Individuals who are lean with muscular necks, high likelihood of sleep apnea, even if they are otherwise like perceivably healthy, like Dana White here. Look at his fucking neck, dude, sleeping with his mouth open. When he's laying on his back, I can just imagine the apnea city that's going on here. And then even here, like still pretty fucking husky dude, big guy, big neck. You can imagine the likelihood of sleep apnea, just even the mass of fucking tissue here collapsing into itself while you're lying down. The probability is quite high that you might need either, something to position your mouth differently or a CPAP or whatever it is that rectifies the issue. Oftentimes, I think people who are larger than average overlook the risks of sleep apnea because it's something you don't even notice unless your significant other tells you about it oftentimes, or you record yourself, or you just feel so shitty on a daily basis that you go get a sleep study done and get confirmation through the results that it's like, oh, actually I've been apneaing like fucking 20 times like this frequently, and I am going to die, within 10 years if I don't get it fixed. Like I had that told to me when I first got diagnosed with sleep apnea, and this was, I don't know how many years ago. I was really young, like I was like barely out of fucking teenagehood at the time, I think. And they were like, yeah, you're probably gonna have like a stroke within 10 years if you don't like get a CPAP machine. I was like, Jesus Christ. So it's serious shit. And yeah, the risk becomes lower the more weight you lose, for example. But oftentimes, for guys who are more muscular than average, like even if you're a shredded guy, you can still have sleep apnea. For Dana White, obviously he had like a lot of fat, a lot of mass in general, but for anybody who's larger than average, a sleep test is probably worthwhile. Like I know Post Malone, I did a video that picked up a lot of steam about his sleep apnea, and it's shocking that a guy who is this connected, this, I don't know, like well-funded at this point still hadn't even looked at, getting a sleep study done or getting a CPAP machine, even though he like is pretty fucking sure he has sleep apnea and he is walking around perpetually brain fogged. Like if you have perpetual brain fog and feel like dog shit even after sleeping after 8 hours, like there's probably something wrong there. So anyways, definitely a huge risk factor. I don't think as many people realize as they need to what one of the main silent killers is in men. Sleep apnea for sure goes so overlooked because it's really hard to tell if you even have it. You just think that how you've been living life is how life is supposed to be for everyone, but in reality you've been like walking in like a fucking haze of fog for your entire life, or like what you can actually remember from your life, because you've been walking around with like shit sleep quality for years, and then it's just put you in this perpetual state of like underslept, cardiovascular stress, brain, literal cell death in your goddamn brain. Like it's brutal what it does. Like it's like one of the worst, most insidious silent killers out there.
They sent me to one of those sleep studies where you go sleep for 4 fucking hours, and then they give you a CPAP machine that a 400-pound fucking guy uses. Right. You know what I mean?
It's not just for 400-pound guys, bro.
I have it, yeah.
I sleep with it for 20 minutes and rip it off my face and throw it on the floor.
But you get used to it, or find something else that works for you. But you got to get it taken care of, or lose so much weight that you don't need it. Doesn't always work for everyone though, but it certainly reduces the severity for sure, to a degree where some people don't even need it after.
No more sleep apnea. I don't snore anymore.
Dude,
everything is gone in 10 fucking weeks. I've been working with doctors for 10 years that couldn't do it.
Well, yeah, like that's the magic of fucking losing weight and getting healthy. Wild, Even in studies where they have individuals that eat in a calorie deficit but eat shit food, as long as their calories are deprived and they lose the weight, they still end up healthier than people who are overeating when it's like healthy food oftentimes. Like that's how significant getting to the right body composition can be. Now, obviously having high quality food and getting to the right body composition is the ideal overall like best formula for success in terms of a health, longevity, vitality aspect. But it just goes to show like how impactful just the straight up body composition really is at the end of the day and how it impacts so many things.
So I fucking, everybody's saying stuff to me and I haven't really said anything publicly, but the Fertitas, I got the Fertitas on the program. They're both doing it now, and all my friends are doing it. This guy's incredible. He's amazing.
Really?
Yeah. And this guy can come in and literally change your life. He can battle. He works with people who have depression. He doesn't believe in any of this depression medicine and anxiety. He thinks it fucks you up even worse.
Yeah.
He's helped people with anxiety, depression, tons of different things. This guy's a genius, man.
So if you're like micronutrient deficient, you're eating fucking McDonald's and Subway all day, you're 40 pounds overweight, what's gonna help you more, an SSRI or exercise and a monitored, calorie deficit? Like what do you think? Like most of us know the answer, but there's a lot of people won't take action, unfortunately.
Sounds like I'm
the poster child.
Right?
With the
Yeah,
depression, the sleep apnea,
I'm telling you.
I'm sleep apnea. I'm snoring. Vanessa wakes me up every fucking night.
I don't snore anymore.
Really?
I was snoring so bad, and I would
do you ever
wake
wake yourself up?
No, I was waking up and couldn't breathe.
Oh,
I'd
me
wake
too.
up
Like
gasping
heartburn.
for air.
Yep.
It got so bad that I got to a point where I was throwing up every night because I was snoring so bad. And then I was throwing up so much that I was starting to lose my voice.
Dude, I'm right there with you.
Gone.
I'm right there with you.
Gone.
Really?
I don't even fucking... My wife used to have to sleep with earplugs. She doesn't have to sleep with earplugs anymore. I don't even snore.
Yeah, that's one of the wild things is how many people think like, oh, I just have an annoying husband or significant other or whatever. And the reality is they're actually suffering, going to war every fucking night in their sleep. And you think they're annoying, whatever. Like it's representative of poor health. If you are having like such a inhibited airway from literal sheer mass suffocating yourself, that's not healthy. That is something that is fucking you up in your sleep and your body's like clamoring for oxygen. And the amount of times people, like when you apnea, it's not typically aggressive enough to make you like wake up gasping for air, but people with severe sleep apnea, they often will notice that. I had that myself. I'd wake up literally gasping for that like breath of air before you like pass out essentially. Oftentimes people don't get to that severity though, and they just have, like micro apneas like multiple times an hour. And they don't realize like how much they're fucking themselves up. The quality of their sleep is terrible. They're killing brain cells. Their heart is going to war every single night. All of their biomarkers get all fucked up. Their testosterone crashes, this, that. It's brutal.
I don't make a peep.
And what's the diet like?
I'm on keto.
By the way, in this video, Joe Rogan and I talk about our sleep apnea experience. So it could be insightful if you haven't seen it.
I'm on the keto diet. And basically, people talk shit about the keto diet. Like, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that. This is what Gary Brecka told me, and think about this. This is true. There are essential fats that your body needs or you'll die.
Sure.
There's essential amino acids that your body needs or you will die. There's no such thing as an essential carbohydrate. It's not true. It doesn't exist. You don't need fucking carbohydrates. You don't. And you can listen to Gary Brecka.
Now, obviously, there would be huge pushback from the nutritional community, whatever you want to call it, that would talk about, the reliance on glucose and this and that, the gluconeogenesis process and what happens when you try and go through keto in order to achieve like the same levels of things in your body that would otherwise be just much simpler if you just ingested carbohydrates. I mean, obviously, there's definitely a severe impact on free sex hormones when you're chronically keto dieting. But at the end of the day, it's a tool that I think should be leveraged for certain individuals. It definitely is super helpful for maintaining like stable blood glucose levels and avoiding fluctuations, and especially maintaining a level of mental clarity and sharpness without like massive brain fog. And oftentimes individuals will not overeat because it keeps their cravings at bay. Like there are a lot of advantages for certain individuals that make it a more suitable diet model than others, but it's context specific. And oftentimes I think the average general individual would probably benefit if they were going to go the keto route from like cyclically reintroducing carbohydrates where appropriate, especially if they are interested in athletic endeavors, especially if you're a guy who weightlifts. Like going chronic keto is like gonna fuck up your performance, like certainly. So, and this is where the carnivore diet guys ended up, you know, really circling back and being like, oh shit, maybe we should put some honey in our diets or start trying fruit or whatever. It was because their free test levels were fucking crashing and their SHBGs looked like fucking teenage girls on birth control. Like, that's how bad it was. So it's not a bad diet, it just has its place for sure. And it certainly shouldn't be a blanket statement like, you want to do this? Keto, this is the way. Dr. Eric Berg, for example, I think we just talked about him recently in a video, and I think he's like a pretty myopic, aggressive advocate of keto dieting, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but there are some individuals that are just like way too in their camp and will not concede to any other dietary practices, regardless of the individual who it might be more appropriate for.
10X Health Systems. You can listen to Joe Rogan, any of these guys that, you know, that he has on his podcast and they've studied. I have never felt better. And you ask any of the people that are around me, my memory, my brain is so fucking clear now. My memory is so much better than it was 10 weeks ago. It's just, there's just so many things in my life I could tell you that have changed. I feel like I'm 35 years old again.
Really?
I swear to God, I feel like I'm 35
And
again.
10 weeks is nothing.
Nothing.
That's nothing.
It's not like you got to do this for 8 months. And,
Right.
And if this is how I feel in 10 weeks, how the fuck am I going to feel in 6 months?
Right.
I'm in. I'm sold on this thing, man. It's incredible.
Wow.
Yeah.
And Lorenzo, I mean, he looks great. He looks great already.
Right.
Like, has he felt the difference?
100%. Yeah. I got all those guys. Frank's doing it now.
Yeah.
Jill, Teresa, everybody's in. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And you're in. So what is a day in the life of Dana White in terms of your schedule? Because you know.
Well, now with this shit, it takes a lot of time to take care of yourself. Actually, it's time consuming.
Right.
I liked it better when I didn't take care of myself. I had a lot more time. But, you know, I get up in the morning and...
Like what time you get up? You get up same time every day?
Well, this morning I had an 8 o'clock meeting, so I had to get up, I had to get up this morning at 7. But I usually get up around 8:15. I'm in the gym by 9:30, do all my shit, usually wrap up and get done showering and getting ready by 11 and start my day.
And when does your day end? It never really ends, right?
It doesn't, no.
Right.
It doesn't end. You know, there's always something going on. There's especially... in this nutty business,
right.
You know, there's always something going on. So, but I love that. I love the chaos and
Bed by like midnight, 1?
oh
like,
no, I don't go to bed till 1 or 2 in the
1 or
morning.
2.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm
I
saying.
stay.
Ago, you had a little drama with the pay-per-view and everything else.
All right, and this has got a lot of attention. Like he talked about it in another podcast more recently, kind of went into some of the same details and whatnot, and there was some overlap, but like people are really resonating with the headline kind of like catchy fucking like get your attention style, you're gonna die in 10 years. Like that is like a huge call to action from like get your ass in gear, you're literally going to goddamn perish. So a lot of people are like, damn, like am I in a similar boat? You know, could I be looking to, you know, optimize myself? Is this something that I'm going to succumb to, or my, you know, significant other or my parents or my grandparents or whatever it is? Like if a lot of individuals would massively benefit, like I said, from going and getting blood work and getting an expert to analyze their state, and sometimes it's the reality check they need to get their shit in line. Oftentimes.
They do these tests on you and they know when you're going to die and they're right within a month. So I'm like, wait a minute. This guy can tell me when I'm going to die and be right within a month.
That was your hook.
I became obsessed. So I went down there. They did my blood work. He said, if you keep doing what you're doing right now and you stay on this trajectory, you got 10.4 years.
I said, Dana, I can see that you can't sleep through the night.
I would wake up in the middle of the night and throw up almost every night.
And I said, I'd be very surprised if it's not painful for you to bend down and tie your shoes right now. And he went, no fucking way. He slammed the table down. He's like, you gotta be kidding me. You're starting to freak me out.
My legs were so fucked up that I couldn't put my socks on in the morning. I was like 1/10 of a point away from being diabetic. He said, you do exactly what I tell you to do for 10 weeks. And I guarantee you I'll change your life. So I was in. You have to understand, I don't fall into all this hippie bullshit. You know, I don't do any of this shit. I'm like average Joe, real guy, okay? This guy has changed my life in 10 weeks. I don't snore anymore. And I sleep 7-8 hours a night now.
How much weight have you lost, if you don't mind me
30
asking?
pounds. I feel like I'm 35 years old again. There's somebody who's listening right now who are going through the same things that I did. Horrible sleeping at night, snoring, sleep apnea, borderline diabetes. I invested in them for 10 weeks and this guy changed my life. It's about not getting the right information. I think that this podcast is going to help a lot of people.
Yeah, I don't think people realize like how impactful some of the changes can be in their life, or even what changes to even go about making, the education to go about taking those actionable steps, what to even do, where to start. It's understandable because it can be overwhelming when you don't understand, how to interpret blood work, or you don't even understand like what is wrong with my diet. Like, it seems pretty healthy. I eat fucking salads, I eat carrots, I eat this, I eat that. But people don't get like even the basics of macro counting sometimes. Like, sometimes this stuff needs to be expert in your corner who kind of like holds your hand and kind of like guides you through the process. And that's where I think the platforms like he mentioned are like super fucking valuable, as well as Merrick Health. This is why I'm super passionate about it. And even rectifying like one of those things, like the sleep apnea, I can almost guarantee that's like one of the biggest needle movers on why he said specifically my memory is way better now. Like, yeah, good luck remembering shit or consolidating any sort of like memory formation, information retention, etc. Having any level of mental acuity when your sleep is dog shit. Like, fixing the sleep apnea, huge. Fixing all your biomarkers through weight loss, huge. The effect it's gonna have on so many areas of his life, from a mental wellness standpoint, emotional volatility standpoint, his personal, interpersonal relationships with people, even his business. Like, so many things are going to be positively impacted, and I think it goes overlooked so much how much health needs to be taken into account. Like, people, will often, let themselves get away with 4, 5, 6 hours sleep on a perpetual basis because it is something that they want to get more work done or whatever it is. And they'll like let certain things suffer from a health aspect just to try and get ahead in other areas, and indirectly it will fuck them over on the back end. Or they're just too lazy to, get in the gym or whatever it is. It's just easier to sit on the couch and watch whatever you're gonna watch. Watch some Netflix. So all I can say is that's awesome to see that he has taken action and seen such a massive difference, and I'm sure it will be influential on many other individuals to do the same. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. If you have any crazy before and after stories about how it impacted your quality of life when you either had a crazy weight loss journey, or started taking your diet seriously, or whatever it is from a mental health standpoint, any sort of actionable steps and the kind of impact it had in a disproportionately like valuable way for all other areas of your life, as well as your actual like inherent just straight up health. I'm sure any of the anecdotes could be motivational for those who are watching. As I know, the Dana White anecdote, I'm sure, is very motivational for a lot of individuals too, who are probably looking into this now because of him. So cool to see from him. Good to see him optimizing shit and getting shit dialed in. And I'm sure many others will follow suit. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. All the comments help the algorithm. Much appreciated. Like, subscribe. Check out my blog, mortality.com. Follow me on Instagram at mortality, Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter, TikTok, Apple Podcasts. If you want to support the channel, you can check out anything I'm associated with in the video description below, as well as Merrick Health. Highly recommend you check it out if you were looking into optimization, not just from a hormone aspect. It's not just, a TRT clinic. It is a turnkey preventative medicine, overarching, just complete wellness platform that is designed specifically to do stuff like this. Dial everyone in from regardless if you're natural, enhanced, somebody who is actually requires HRT, like any of that stuff. Like, a lot of these TRT clinics exist just to be like pill mills, more or less, and prescribe TRT to whoever walks through the door. I can almost guarantee Dana White was probably on TRT at this point in 2021, and it was not the magic pill solution for him. Presumably. Maybe he wasn't. I could be wrong. He looks pretty fucking saucy here. And that was my conclusion at the time, March 20th, 2021. And here we are, 2022. Him actually massively improving his blood work and his sleep quality and his this and his that by actually addressing other things, not just from a injecting shit into yourself aspect, which again, that would be highly speculative if he was even doing that to begin with back then. But at the end of the day, there are no magic pills. At the end of the day, you need to actually have actionable steps to take towards your lifestyle changes, your diet manipulations, how to optimize your hormones from a natural standpoint first before you look to the exogenous route. In 99% of cases, it is something that will be a disproportionately high return to your quality of life if you really address this shit seriously and take it as seriously as Dana did. So thank you guys for watching. Talk to you soon.